14-inch gaming laptops are nice and portable, but the problem is they can get expensive. It costs more to cram a bunch of hardware into a smaller space. That's just how tech works. But this is where MSI's Cyborg 14 comes in. A lower-end, more budget-friendly 14-inch gaming laptop option. But of course, a lower price means we should expect compromises, which is why I bought the Cyborg 14 to see if it's worth buying, and find out what sacrifices have been made for the lower price tag. But first, this part of the video is sponsored by the Ugreen RevoDock Pro 210, a 10-in-1 USB-C hub. From just one Type-C connection, you get access to 2 Type-C ports, one with 100 watts of power delivery, 3 Type-A ports, micro and regular SD card slots, gigabit Ethernet, and 2 HDMI ports, allowing you to connect 2 monitors at 4K 60Hz, or one at 8K 30Hz. Or if you need more ports, the Ugreen RevoDock Pro 313 13-in-1 also has audio, a 4th Type-A port, and DisplayPort for connecting up to 3 monitors. Check them out with Ugreen's whole range of docks and chargers with the link below. Back to the Cyborg 14. It has a black plastic finish with translucent blue accenting all over. There's some flex to the keyboard and screen when pushing hard, but it feels sturdy during normal use with only very minor screen wobble when typing. I appreciated the large rubber feet underneath. They do a great job of stopping it sliding on my desk. The hinge feels smooth to open and close, and the front of the lid sticks out quite a bit, making it super easy to open with your finger. The screen only goes back 120 degrees, less compared to most other laptops, but it's still easily viewable at a desk. Overall build quality isn't as nice compared to the more expensive 14-inch gaming laptops, but it's not bad either. It's quite similar in width and depth compared to other 14-inch gaming laptops out there, but the Cyborg is a little thicker at the back. It still feels quite portable though, at 1.6 kilos or 3.6 pounds, increasing to 2.1 kilos or 4.6 pounds with the relatively small 120 watt charger included. My Cyborg 14 has a 10-core Intel CPU and Nvidia's RTX 4050 graphics with a 14-inch 144Hz screen. It's also available with higher tier RTX 4060 graphics. You can check options and prices with the link under the video. The keyboard has one zone of blue backlighting with clear WASD keys and power button. All keys and secondary functions get lit up, and you can change between 3 levels of key brightness with the F8 shortcut. Typing on the keyboard felt surprisingly good. I really liked the clicky feel. The smaller arrow keys were annoying to press though. The touchpad is fairly big and works well too. No problems there. The power button is right next to delete and backspace, but an accidental press doesn't do anything. You have to hold it down for quite a while before Windows asks if you want to shut down. The left side has a Kensington lock at the back, a USB 3.2 Gen 1 Type-A port, and an audio combo jack. The right side has another 3.2 Gen 1 Type-A port, a faster 3.2 Gen 2 Type-C port, an HDMI 2.1 output, and the power input at the back. There's a gigabit Ethernet port on the back. This is the only 14-inch gaming laptop with an Ethernet port, which is one of the benefits of being thicker. Unfortunately, the Type-C port cannot be used to charge the laptop, but it does have DisplayPort support, so you can connect a monitor. And the Type-C port also connects directly to the Nvidia graphics, bypassing Optimus. HDMI, on the other hand, connects to the integrated graphics instead. We confirmed it could run a 4K screen at 8-bit 60Hz. If you swap to the integrated graphics only mode, the software warns that HDMI might stop working. MSI's higher tier gaming laptops have the HDMI port connecting to the Nvidia discrete graphics. But that's not the case here, so I'm guessing the software just isn't aware of the device it's being run on, and it just says the same thing regardless. Because I confirmed the HDMI output still works perfectly fine on the integrated graphics mode, as you would expect. But it's the Type-C port that stops working, as that connects to the Nvidia GPU. Getting inside requires removing 8 Phillips head screws, all the same length. It's not too hard to open, but it definitely needed pry tools. I'll leave a link to these ones I use below. Inside, we've got the battery down the front, 2 DDR5 memory slots above in the middle, the single PCIe Gen 4 storage slot to the left, and Wi-Fi 6E card on the far left. Wi-Fi speed was above average and a good result. As far as 14-inch gaming laptops go, the Cyborg is only beaten by ASUS's more expensive Zephyrus G14. The speeds from the installed 512GB PCIe Gen 4 SSD were decent. There's room for a double-sided M.2 drive, but you might need to remove or modify the included thermal pad. Despite being on the more budget-friendly end of the spectrum, the Cyborg 14 still has 2 memory slots for upgrades. Only MSI's Stealth 14 and Razer's far more expensive Blade 14 from 2023 onwards offer that. The Stealth 14 scores the same here, while the Blade lost half a point for its uncommon TR5 screws. Most other 14-inch laptops either have soldered memory or storage. The speakers are found down the front on the left and right corners. They're fairly loud but don't sound that good. They're tinny without bass, and there's a little wrist rest vibration with music playing. The Latencymon results weren't amazing, but still better compared to a lot of more expensive laptops we tested last year. The Cyborg 14 is powered by a 3-cell 53.5 watt-hour battery. Display power saver is enabled by default, which automatically lowers the screen's refresh rate to 60 Hz when you unplug the charger to save power. This is why the screen flashes black, and it goes back to 144 Hz when you plug back in. Battery life was okay considering the smaller size of the battery, lasting for over 5 hours in the YouTube video playback test. Almost the same as MSI's higher tier Stealth 14 with a larger battery, and close to a number of more powerful gaming laptops with bigger batteries. The 14-inch gaming laptops with AMD processors generally last much longer though. Let's check out thermals next. The Cyborg 14 only has one fan, with heat pipes shared between the CPU and GPU. There are plenty of holes underneath for air intake, and air gets exhausted out the back and on the left side, so no hot air on your mouse hand, as long as you're right-handed. The MSI Center software allows us to change between different performance modes, which from lowest to highest are silent, balanced, and extreme performance. Extreme performance gives you the option to overclock the GPU, but there's no overclock enabled by default, so we haven't tested with one. The fan speed tab lets you enable cooler boost mode, which sets the fan to full speed, or you can customize the fan curve in advanced. You can also max the fan out at any time with the function and up arrow key shortcut. The internal temps were fine when just sitting there idle. The rest of the results are from combined CPU and GPU stress tests, which aim to represent a worst case full load scenario. The internal temps are all running cool in this workload, regardless of the performance mode in use. Closing the lid didn't change the temperature, so no problems if you want to dock the laptop. The cooling pad I test with, linked below, was able to lower temps by about 5 degrees Celsius. You can get a similar dip by setting the fans to full speed, but that's louder too. The clock speeds were more or less the same with or without the cooling pad and fans maxed out, and that's because thermals were nowhere near being a limit in this workload. Clock speeds lowered a bit with the lid closed for some reason, which was strange considering the temps were fine, and that the CPU was still hitting the same 24 watt power limit in all but silent modes. Nvidia's RTX 4050 graphics can max out at 90 to 100 watts, but MSI's Cyborg 14 limits GPU power to just 45 watts. Considering how cool the temperatures are, they probably could have increased these power limits a bit to offer improved performance. Granted, that may also require a larger charger with more juice. The power limits in balanced mode are the same as extreme mode, so in a game, you might as well play in balanced mode to keep the fans quieter. The FPS difference was only minor in Cyberpunk 2077, and still close to 60 FPS at 1080p high settings without DLSS or frame generation. But we'll see how this compares with other laptops soon. The CPU can use more power if the GPU is idle, like in Cinebench, and performance was better in the higher modes, as expected. Multi-core CPU performance isn't as good compared to the other 14-inch laptops tested over the last year, but single-core performance was comparable. To be fair, the Cyborg 14 should also be cheaper too, though as we'll see later, that depends on sales. CPU performance lowers if we unplug the charger and instead run off of battery power. Single-core performance didn't change much, but the dip in multi-core score puts it further behind now. That said, there are far more expensive laptops scoring similarly in this test, so the Cyborg shouldn't be too embarrassed. Most laptops I test are in the low 30 degrees Celsius range on the keyboard at idle, and most of it was fine, but it was a little warmer in the middle. It's fairly warm in the middle with the stress tests running in silent mode, but it's only right in the center. It's similar in the higher balanced mode, but the middle doesn't feel too hot because the hot points are in between the keycaps. Extreme mode with the fans on auto was much the same, but the WASD seat area and wrist rest is cold if you're gaming. Setting the fans to full speed lowered the temps a little, but the fan is fairly loud now. Let's have a listen. The fan was audible at idle, but it was fairly quiet. The fan speeds up in the higher performance modes, as expected. Setting the fan to full speed is quite loud, and definitely not required considering the temps were still cold without it. Using a cooling pad allowed the fan to run quieter, while still lowering the temperature just as much as setting the fan to full speed. Alright, we really need to talk about the screen, because this is one of the first areas that gets cut in a lower end, more budget-friendly gaming laptop. But the Cyborg 14 surprised me. The colors were decent. Not amazing for content creation, but plenty for gaming and better compared to most other lower-end budget-focused gaming laptops. The screen gets quite bright too, just shy of 500 nits at full brightness. This actually puts it ahead of most other more expensive 14-inch options, only beaten by Razer's far more premium Blade 14. Backlight bleed was only very minor and not noticeable during normal use, but this will vary between laptops. Screen response time wasn't bad at all either. For a 144Hz screen, we want transitions to occur within the 6.94 millisecond refresh window, and on average, we're not far off this. Yeah, it's not quite as fast compared to the more expensive 14-inch gaming laptops out there, but it's more than twice as fast compared to a few larger budget-friendly options. This is a decent result, and won't be a problem for most people when gaming. The total system latency is the amount of time between a mouse click and when a gunshot fire appears on the screen in Counter-Strike 2. It's a decent result here too. Not as good as this year's G14, but better than the Legion Slim 5 14-inch and MSI Stealth 14 with higher specs. Unfortunately, the Cyborg 14 does not have a MUX Switch. You only get the option to swap to the integrated graphics to help save battery, which requires a reboot. Honestly, this isn't that big of a deal since the queso update anyway, and it's definitely not what's holding this laptop back, as we'll see shortly in the game benchmarks. There's a 720p camera above the screen, but there's no IR for Windows Hello Face Unlock. Here's how the camera and microphones look and sound, and this is what it sounds like while typing on the keyboard. Now let's find out how well MSI's Cyborg 14 performs in games. We've tested with these settings for best results. Cyberpunk 2077 was tested with our own custom test run, and I've got the Cyborg 14 shown by the red highlight. At 1080p, it's matching Alienware's far more premium X14 with RTX 3060 graphics from a couple of years ago, and it's also about the same as MSI's GF63, a larger but even cheaper laptop. The full-powered 4050 laptops like Acer's Nitro 5 or HP's Victus were able to reach a 25% higher average frame rate because the Cyborg 14's GPU power is limited to just 45 watts. Red Dead Redemption 2 was tested with the game's benchmark. Again, at 1080p, it's near that older Alienware X14 with RTX 3060 graphics and a little ahead of MSI's cheaper GF63 with same 45-watt RTX 4050 graphics. The higher-powered 4050 laptops were 15% ahead this time, but you could also boost performance even further on all of them by turning on DLSS. Meanwhile, the RTX 4060 in a more premium laptop like Lenovo's Legion Slim 5 was 35% faster than the Cyborg 14. It's a similar sort of deal in Control. This game still ran above 60 FPS with the highest setting preset, so not a bad result, it's just that other laptops with the same GPU but worse CPU were up to 34% faster. Here are the 3D Mark results for those that find them useful. Now for some content creator tests. Like the game tests, the results are lower compared to other similarly spec'd laptops due to the laptop's lower CPU and GPU power limits. MSI's Advanced BIOS provides you with almost unlimited customization once you enter the usual cheat code to access it. There's just one problem. This laptop doesn't have a right control key because they've replaced it with Microsoft's new dedicated Copilot key. So you also have to press and hold the function key, then hold down Copilot as control, making it a 5-key shortcut now. Once you can get in, you can change things from power limits, temperature limits, and way more. This is something MSI does better compared to any other brand, and is an awesome resource if you like tuning your system. Linux support was tested with an Ubuntu 23.10 live CD. By default, the keyboard, touchpad, camera, speakers, Ethernet, and Wi-Fi all worked. Keyboard shortcuts for adjusting volume, keyboard brightness, screen brightness, and turning on max fans all worked. An excellent result. Pricing and availability will change over time, so check the link below the video for updates and current sales. And if the Cyborg 14 does have a good sale, we'll be sure to add it to our gaminglaptop.deals website. We update that every day to include all of the latest sales. So make sure that you check it out regularly to save money on your next gaming laptop. At the time of recording, the higher tier configuration with RTX 4060 goes for $1,100 US, but it's currently out of stock. So again, you'll have to check the links below the video for updates. Honestly, that's not great. Considering on our gaminglaptop.deals website, link below, we have last year's Asus Zephyrus G14 for $100 less on sale with the same GPU, with more than double the GPU power limit. So better gaming performance, in other words. And with more premium features. Of course, the Cyborg 14 will probably be cheaper once it goes on sale too. It only just launched. But yeah, right now at the time of launch, it's not looking that competitive compared to last year's cheaper options. So I suspect it might not be too long before it starts going on sale. It's just going to need it to compete. Ultimately, assuming a competitive price, I think that MSI have made a pretty competitive lower-end 14-inch gaming laptop. The screen is fairly good, you get upgradable RAM and storage, the keyboard and touchpad are decent, and I'm pretty sure it's the only 14-inch gaming laptop with an Ethernet port, which I know is make or break for some people. More premium features like G-Sync, Type-C charging, and MUX Switch are missing, as they increase the cost. But to be fair, the MUX Switch isn't as useful as it used to be since the Queso update anyway. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I'll leave a link to that Queso video in the description. The main downside is just the lower CPU and GPU power limits. Despite the one fan cooler, temperatures remained fairly cool in a combined CPU and GPU stress test. But that's due to the lower power limits. The point is, there is thermal headroom available in this thing. I think that MSI could pretty easily increase the power limits, which would result in higher FPS in games. They just might need to give it a slightly bigger 180 watt charger instead of 120 watt. And if I was to put my tinfoil hat on, I'd say that MSI might not want the Cyborg 14 sales to start cannibalizing their higher tier Stealth 14, which does have a higher 90 watt GPU power limit, double the Cyborg. But who knows, I'm just speculating. If you've made it this far but decided that you want a better 14-inch gaming laptop, then check this video out next, where I've gone in depth with Asus's latest Zephyrus G14. It does cost more money, but on the other hand, it is better in most regards. So I'll see you in that one next.